So many abbreviations when it comes to investing, hard to keep them all straight. 401ks, but 403BS, 457 plans?
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff out there.
Allison Gillen Aquino here with Edward Jones Financial. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean. I want to talk this morning about what's RMDs. Do you know what those are?
No.
Required minimum distributions.
Okay.
And it affects people's retirement savings. If you happen to turn 70 and a half this year, you have to take your RMD or else you risk a penalty.
All right, let's start with how much you have to take.
The calculation is based on this very long calculated formula that factors in, for instance, your life expectancy and how much you had in your IRA as of December 31st the prior year. So basically that number is going to change every year because every year you get a year older. Also, the account balance that you have in your IRA varies year to year. So it's the kind of thing that your financial advisor should be calculating for you. And then you have the option, Sean, based on how you need the money. You can take it monthly if you need it to help pay the bills, kind of cover what Social Security or your pension doesn't. Or, you know, you can take it quarterly, you can take it semi-annually. I've got clients, Sean, who prefer to take it all at the end of the year as late as possible, keep the money working as long as possible, and then they use that money, for instance, to pay their property taxes, or they may be looking at it to help offset all the expenses with Christmas.
Now, as far as penalties go, anything to be worried about there or to be aware of?
It's important that you know what your number is, and again, that number changes every year because you will be penalized 50%, 50% of what you should have taken but didn't if you lowball your RMD. So you got to make sure you're aware of that number, and after 70 and a half, the RMD is something that you've got to take every year from that point moving forward.
And there might be some people wondering, what if I don't need the money?
Yeah, there's a lot of good options. You know, a lot of people think, oh, if I take my RMD, I've got to liquidate that asset in the account and then I've got to, you know, take it over. You actually, if you don't need the money, can literally pick up the dollar value of whatever asset you do have in your IRA account and you can move it into a non-retirement account. Really, all the government wants is they want you to move that asset out of a retirement plan into something where they can tax you. So if you move the asset rather than liquidating it and taking the money, that's called a distribution in kind. You're going to have a tax consequence at the end of the year. You'll pay state and federal taxes based on that dollar amount that you move. You want to move it into a non-retirement account. And then again, at the end of the year, you'll get a tax form that tells you, okay, I have to, you know, add that RMD onto my taxable income, like my Social Security and my pension. And then I've got to make sure I've paid enough taxes, too.
And talking about taxes, if somebody's considering putting that distribution in Roth IRA.
I get a lot of questions about that. You can do it as long as you still have earned income. So let's say you're retired and you're still working, so you're getting a little bit of a paycheck every so often. If you don't need your RMD, you are able to take the distribution and move it into the Roth, but you're only able to put as much into the Roth as you've got earned income that year. If you're one of those retirees who isn't working and your only income is your distributions from your account and your Social Security, you're not going to be able to put it into your Roth because obviously then you don't have earned income.
Yeah. Okay. Allison, thanks.
December 31st of this year is when you got to get it in.
Okay. And don't forget, pass along your questions here as well. Wake up 6, fox6now.com. Rob?
All right, thanks, guys. 7:17 as we dive into our